That probably is one reason why the FBI didn't go as far as they normally would have gone.
And we know that there have been some closed-door intelligence briefings by the FBI explaining to members of Congress what went on, what happened when they looked into Tamerlan Tsarnaev. Is that going to be it, or is Congress obligated to have open hearings to find out more about this?
Well, I think at least in the House of Representatives, you're going to have open hearings on this. And I think it's going to be a major issue when the immigration bill comes up, not because of the Boston bombers themselves, but because of the fact that when you only do a immigration bill once every 25 years and everybody knows that the borders aren't secured and terrorists can come into this country and all of the protections aren't in place, it's something that we got to do right.
What's up, jerks? It's Mike Crawford. Trying to get this intro right. I didn't get it quite right, unfortunately. I got preoccupied, but you got a gist of Senator Grassley talking about the Boston Marathon bombing a few years back. Wanted to get some clips up there just to get a taste of what we're going to talk about tonight, which is this book, Mayhem, and several of her books. We have a great journalist tonight, award-winning. I have it in my chat. Let me just, my moderators are so good. They lined it right up for me. We have Michele McPhee. She's Boston-based, which I love. I used to listen to her on talk radio. I think it was 96.9 back in the day. Boston-based investigative producer for ABC News, Ross Investigative Unit, and a contributor to Newsweek, Boston, and other national magazines, including LA Mag right now. She's also a best-selling author of 6 true crime titles. Mayhem, that's the one I want to talk about tonight. I have been reading it all week. A Professor's Rage, A Date with Death, Heartless, the true story of Neil Entwistle and the brutal murder of his wife and baby, When Evil Rules, and A Mob Story. She's also a best-selling author, Emmy-nominated investigative journalist, and award-winning columnist, Boston Herald, among other places. And she's also got this podcast we're going to promote tonight, because I've listened quite a bit to that over the years. And that's when I first was hitting her up, wanting her to have her on the show. I never heard back from her until recently. And I think she actually hit me up. I think I followed her and she sent me a message. And I've been wanting to have her on to talk about this book for so long. So I'm very excited. We got a short amount of time with her because she's under deadline. She's got a big article she's writing about the death of Rob Reiner right now. So let's bring her up. Michele McPhee, how you doing tonight?
It's so good to see you. I love seeing Boston in the backdrop. That's nice. I'm here in my little Venice studio. Venice Beach, California.
Oh, Venice Beach. The sun is still out. We're pretty much almost dark here.
Yeah, it is kind of funny. You know, I'm sure your audience is going to be a little riveted by the Rob Reiner story, because the accused killer, Nick Reiner, has hired Alan Jackson. And I think everyone's trying to figure out how he's paying for Alan Jackson, whether maybe the family is just, throwing him some money to get him a defense. But it's interesting how all of these stories, East Coast and West Coast, for me, always collide constantly.
Oh my God. Talk about colliding. Reading your book. It was like so much colliding. And watching your podcast this week, like the Rossetti stuff, like I almost wonder if I wasn't in a club that he owned, actually, but just like the Cambridge stuff. We were at the same spot on the same day, and a big scene in this book, and that's at Sean Collier, where he got shot. I was there. I was a half a block, 2 blocks away. I lived. And when I heard that happen, I went out there, and it was just like a press scrum I've never seen, with the police, with the machine guns. Do you remember that? They pushed us back across the railroad tracks. Were you there then?
I was, but I was a little bit closer to MIT by then. And that's really where that entire investigation began, to be honest. Mike, right away, there was a lot of shenanigans going on about Sean Collier's homicide. For example, now everybody's talking about Brown University and the videos that are that are tiny, and you could do a stick figure drawing that will probably give us a better idea of who the suspect might be. But that reminded me of the video that was shown when Sean Collier was assassinated. The prosecutor in Jahar Zanayev's trial, talked about the figures that were walking towards Sean Colley before he was killed. And there were a lot of unanswered questions that began the night of Thursday, April 18th. And it began with a robbery, if you recall. Remember there was a robbery at the 7-Eleven
I want to
around
know
the corner?
because that's 7-Eleven. That was my 7-Eleven. If it's the one on MIT at the corner there, or is it the one in Central Square? I heard different reports on which 7-Eleven was that.
It was the one on Central Square, and there's video
Okay,
of it.
so it was Central.
And if you recall, the Mass State Police immediately put out a most wanted poster, a bolo, for the suspect in that. And then you cannot find that. I printed it out, luckily, but you cannot find that to save your life right now, because that's when the unanswered questions began. Who robbed that 7-Eleven? In the video, you can clearly see somebody, just like the gait of the Brown University shooter is really prominent, and you can kind of tell the walk. We've all seen that video of Jahar Zanayev and his brother walking down Boylston Street a million times. The guy walking in behind the robber at the 7-Eleven is, many experts believe, Jahar. Undoubtedly Jahar Zanayev. And that's when people started to tip me off that there's something not right about this entire story. You know, I love the clip that you led in with Grassley talking about immigration. That was the last time we saw Congress agree on anything. What we know for a fact is that James Comey, who just saw his indictment, next, and James Comey and Andrew McCabe, who's now a CNN analyst, those two guys with the FBI refused to cooperate with Congress. They ignored congressional subpoenas, and it was the last time the right and the left agreed on anything. You had Bill Keating, who is I would say a progressive, maybe not totally liberal, left-leaning, but he's definitely a Democrat. Bill Keating, a former prosecutor from Massachusetts, now a congressman, he was furious that the FBI refused to cooperate, so much so that he flew to Russia with Steven Seagal, the actor, and another group of lawmakers, where they came back saying they got more answers from the Russian FSB than they got from the FBI. I mean, think about that statement. It's extraordinary. The Russians were more cooperative with our congressional investigators than the FBI was, and they got away with it. And then you have, Michael McCall, who's a right-wing Republican from Texas, saying the exact same thing. This information does not belong to the FBI. It belongs to the American people. To this day, Mike, we have never gotten answers from the FBI about their relationship with Tamerlan and Jahar Zanayev. And to this day, I believe that Tamerlan Zanayev was working as an asset.
You do too. And it's funny you say.
Did I convince you in the book?
You did. And also, just the local police, the Cambridge police, the Topsfield police, again, more like things just weaving in, because I'm a North Shore guy. So this Topsfield, I know exactly where this happened. And I lived in Cambridge when that happened. It just, to me, this one hit so hard. So, yeah.
Well, sorry. So Gary Hayward, who was a sergeant at the time, but now he retired as a captain. He has my book. He's so mad about this case to this day. He has the book chapter tattooed on his arm.
Page 195. Yeah, this is 195. This is where he tells the JTF. That's where I have it bookmarked, is where he gives his testimony. I mean, that's just amazing.
And he was honest. There was so many cops.
Is he still around? Is he still around?
Yeah, he's still around. Believe me, when we were launching the podcast, the Mayhem with Michele McPhee podcast, which was just me and my intern, who became a fantastic producer. George Collins, his name was. Him and I did that alone, solo, with no support producers. We didn't know anything what we were doing, but we knew what I really wanted to create was a website where anybody can go to it. It's still active and see the evidence for themselves. Because you can ask me, and no one has poked a hole in my book or my thesis ever. In fact, there's a professor at the Pardee School of Government at Boston University who assigns my book every semester to his intelligence students and gives them the assignment, find a hole in this book. And to this day, and we're talking about, wow, how many years later, 15 years later, nobody has. So the book is solid, but I think that, the narrative was shut down by some very powerful people.
Yeah, it's wild, because it is so backed up and it's so obvious. Why hasn't this... You have your podcast, you have your website. We've been promoting it in the chat. I hope people buy this book. Mayhem. It's still out there. You can buy it on Amazon. It's easy to get. Why? Like, I would expect this to be, because there were some movies about the Boston Marathon. We know, are your friend Dave Wedge? I know Dave well too.
Dave's a great guy.
He's in your podcast, and like his book Patriots Day became a big movie. There was also the Stronger movie with the guy in the wheelchair, Jeff. And there's been some movies about the Boston Marathon bombing. Why hasn't this turned into like a major big documentary, or maybe I missed it, or a movie like that? Because I feel like it should be. This is like the big story. It's so much more compelling to me.
Well, now that I'm out here in the industry, it is interesting. Do you know that Comey, for one, is represented by CAA, one of the big agencies here in Los Angeles. So these guys get jobs in the Hollywood industry. And my assessment is, maybe they kibosh some of this stuff.
They block you.
Because it's kind of interesting. Look, no matter what, there are some documented unanswered questions. For example, the government said in open court that the brothers did not build the bombs. So who did? Shouldn't that the whole city of Boston and the whole country should be saying, well, if those two idiots didn't build the bombs, who did? And I think that there are a lot of unanswered questions about this guy, Daniel Morley, who is still, I understand, I do know the last time I looked into Daniel Morley, he, as you read, he was the guy who was arrested 55 days after the Boston Marathon bombing. He had beat up his mother allegedly, and her elderly companion. They were so terrified of him, they crawled out of the window in their nightgowns. And when Gary Hayward arrived, they were stricken, saying, my son lost his mind. He's friends with the Boston Marathon bomber, Tamerlan Tsarnaev. He disappeared on Marathon Monday. And obviously, Gary Hayward took very careful notes. And what's even more alarming is, after hearing all that information, when they get permission to enter his room, they find all of the signatures to the Boston Marathon bombs. They find a box top to a 6-quart Fagor pressure cooker, the exact size and brand used at the marathon. What was written on the back of that? A recipe for thermite. Where did Morley work? MIT, in the building where Sean Collier was executed. And Daniel Morley had been fired months earlier, so he didn't have access to get into the lab where he worked in a lab. This guy with a recipe for thermite. Now, remember, we all know that those brothers had planned to drive to New York and unleash more terror in Times Square with additional bombs they had in the back of their vehicle, the Jahar's shipbox car, and then they had carjacked Deng Meng, that young student, and they had planned to take the two vehicles to New York and unleash more destruction. So it begs a huge question. Hold on a minute. We have a guy who was identified by his own family members as likely being the dude who robbed the 7-Eleven.
His stepdad believed it. His stepdad was like, that's it. That's him. That's him. Imagine your stepdad says, that's him in the video, and I know he did the Boston. Like his stepdad who lived with him knew he did it. That should say a lot to people.
Do you know what happened to that poor guy's cat?
What?
It was poisoned when Morley got out of prison.
Oh, whose cat? The stepdad's cat?
The stepdad's cat. I mean, I wouldn't call him a stepdad. I would say he was the companion of his mother. Yeah. But who was generous enough to let Daniel Morley live in his house in Topsfield. So Morley's room was filled with all kinds of bomb-making materials, including identical signatures. And the most mysterious thing that happened that night, Mike, is all of a sudden the FBI shows up, and the state police bomb squad told me, and members of other departments. Gary Hayward clearly is on the record about it. Everyone started looking around at each other like, who called the Phoebes? Who called these guys? And no one did. They just showed up. So it raises some really interesting questions, especially when you start looking at this guy's history. Somehow he got a gun permit in Melrose, Massachusetts, even though he is an immigrant. If you look at Morley's history clearly, he's an immigrant from England. So it's unusual. My dad is a Vietnam vet, lived in the neighboring town of Wakefield and couldn't get a gun permit. That's why he lives in New Hampshire now. So this idea that Morley got a gun permit in New Hampshire, his dad worked at, the shadowy Lincoln Labs on the MIT campus as well. And this kid's working in a lab that just happens to be adjacent to where Sean Collier gets assassinated. He's probably, very likely, the 7-Eleven robber, but that case remains unsolved. And he's friends with Tamerlan Tsarnaev, but Don't worry, nothing to see here. But the most important thing about Morley to remember, and this is the story I think that really needs to be told in a doc and a movie, is I went to the Cuckoo Hospital where he was being held in the psychiatric unit. After, he was never, ever arraigned on the charges. And there were several. Remember, there was the assault on his mom, the assault on his mom's companion. There was unsecured ammunition in his room. And the Massachusetts had just made having bomb components illegal with the bomb component bill. Everything, he should have been charged with multiple crimes, which Gary Hayward was writing up a complaint for when the feds swept in, took all the evidence, threw him in this mental hospital, and that was the end of that. And I went to visit him in the hospital, and it was literally like a scene out of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I'm waiting in this waiting room, and this big hulking man who was Daniel Morley comes down the hallway. And I've been waiting so long, and to be honest, I was a little rattled by then. So I blurted out Danny, did you build the bombs? And I will never forget this. He shrugged like this and said, wasn't me, and turned around and walked away. And, I think the timing, who is paying? Anyone who has somebody who is struggling with addiction or mental illness knows it's almost impossible to get inpatient treatment for your loved one. This guy was in an inpatient facility for 2 years. Who paid for that? Insurance wasn't paying for that. Who paid for that? And when did he get out? A few days after Jahar Tsarnaev was convicted and sentenced to death. And then Morley comes strolling out, and not long after that, his mom's companion's cat is found dead.
Sure.
And he is driving for the ride, which is a state job with a pension and health insurance. Daniel Morley probably has better health insurance than I do.
Was it Tewksbury Hospital? Where was he staying at?
I was at Tewksbury Hospital.
Tewksbury. Wow.
It's just a wild story, and
they
it's
just basically kept
them
on ice.
cares.
Yeah, they kept them on ice.
That's what they did.
You couldn't, yeah. And then as soon as they get because what your book really shows too is, kind of an overview, I would say, is that there were, number one, more people involved in this, obviously. Daniel Morley is one, but you also point to it some other characters that just disappeared or died.
They just disappeared. Remember 89 Dexter Ave in the shootout? There was a house full of students, international students, many of them Middle Eastern. One guy got dragged out of the house. The only story you can find about him, and he looks almost like a twin to Jahar Tsarnaev, is a story in Saudi Arabia about how one of their students had been arrested by the FBI. You can't find out anything else about it. Then CNN had footage. I was watching it live. They had footage of that big naked guy that they tackled to the ground. What happened to him? It's just astonishing to me, Mike, that nobody has this is something where the Globe Spotlight team needs to take this up. I am a one-woman operation,
show.
Right? And
I know, that's what's weird.
How easy it was to uncover all of that. It's all documented. Why hasn't someone else, why hasn't Congress picked up the ball? Everybody's worried about the Epstein files. F the Epstein files. Give me the Tsarnaev A files.
Yeah,
seriously. Let's go back and see how they got into the country with the help of their uncle, Graham Fuller, who was the CIA station chief in Turkey, in Ankara, Turkey. This guy is so close to the Tsarnaevs that the Tsarnaev's uncle, the father's brother, was married to the CIA station chief's daughter for a time.
Right.
And Tamerlan, when they got to the country, lived in the CIA guy's house in Maryland. So come on, give me a break. Then the house they lived in Cambridge, right?
Yeah, it's this deep state. It's weird too. This around this book, because I know Peter Zelkind has a different angle on the Waltham 3, even with the drug connections. But it's drugs and military spying, just this kind of whole. It's funny. It's blowback.
Don't even mention that book, because she completely stole my story that I broke for ABC News.
Oh,
she even lifted a quote at one point, and they did this big profile, the only journalist who's looking into the marathon bombing, and I was like, give me a break. She was dating one of the perps, and her dad represented him. That's not reporting.
Eric Weissman. But there's different angles on all of this. But I think the big thing that I look at is it's kind of like government blowback so many times, where especially with the FBI, with the confidential informants from Whitey Bulger to the other guy you exposed, the Mark Rossetti situation, and then like these guys, it's like they're informants. And I even look at like what's going on today. We're talking about Brown University and this MIT. They may be connected. People are talking about it could be another kind of ring, like, you know, it could be some kind of domestic.
That is a
thing
bizarre
going on.
story. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
so
That's a very bizarre story.
and sometimes it's like we find out the government kind of is like making it worse, like with their informants. Like, do you feel like that's a problem that has no oversight? Because that's what I think is a big
Well,
issue. They need to do this stuff, but the oversight and the lack of accountability and how they cover it up when they screw up, and they never learn from their mistakes. I see this a lot. Do you agree on that?
That's exactly right. You really just articulated that very well. Look, this is a necessary law enforcement tool. We need to develop sources. We need human intelligence. And in order to do that, you need people on the ground. And on paper, Tamerlan Tsarnaev was an excellent asset. You know, he could blend in very easily at that mosque. And if you look into the mosque in Cambridge that he attended near his house, it is a hotbed of terrorism. Hotbed. The guy who started that mosque is serving time for being associated with Al-Qaeda, right? Mysteriously, he gets out when Gaddafi is taken out, but that's a whole other rabbit hole to go down. But then you look at Lady Al-Qaeda. Afia Siddiqui went to that mosque. The pharmacist, who was that kid, the pharmacist student that was convicted of terrorism? There's at least 4 terrorists that pop into my head that went to that mosque. And, you know, Tamerlan was clearly sent in there after 9/11. I'll never forget, you know, I was there on the ground for 9/11. I covered it for the Daily News. And, you know, their first order of business was to get informants in these mosques. And Tamerlan was a very likely suspect. Remember, the kid came in here with the help of the CIA. So you don't think they were utilizing him? Graham Fuller, there's no way this family from Russia gets a tourist visa as an entire family to get into this country, and then they get set up immediately with a rent control department that just happened to belong to a former KGB agent who had been flipped by who? Oh, Graham Fuller again. So give me a break. This guy, Graham Fuller, is all over the story. And it's funny because now I'm on staff as the senior writer editor for Los Angeles Magazine. And the first story I wrote for LA Mag that got the attention of one of the attorneys for one of the targets in the story, Graham Fuller, there was a big, you know, partnership between this crazy polygamous cult in Utah and a reputed Armenian underworld figure here in LA. And they ripped off it was so easy too. They ripped off the government, us, for $500 million in biofuel tax credits. But guess who was handling one of the assets in that case? Graham Fuller in Turkey. So it's just like this, there's never, like you said, Mike, it goes back to, look, this is a necessary evil. And yes, Tamerlan, when he was in Russia. So you recall, and I think, you know, this is what led Bill Keating and others to Russia with Steven Seagal from Hard to Kill in the first place, is when Tamerlan was in Russia, he was a green card holder. He should not have been there for longer than 6 months. It should have immediately flagged for another inspection. But instead, this guy is there, and no one can say how long. Because remember, Janet Napolitano flubbed it in front of Congress when she was the DHS secretary. Then she quit because she wasn't going to do that again.
That was the quote I was trying to open with. I overplayed it, but that's funny. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, that's funny. So Janet Napolitano was like, humana.
Yeah, he got her.
Humana.
He got her good.
Oh, whoa, what? And then he's there, and you know, successful tracking and killing of high-level terror targets. So there was
one of his friends too, right? Like a guy from Canada. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, Tamerlan goes over there. For people that don't know, the Boston bomber went to like Russia and basically met with terrorists, and then left. And those terrorists got bombed right where he was at. It was basically he set him up, and one of them was his friend. So think about how messed up his head must have been after doing that for the government, and then the government doesn't help him with what he wants, which is a citizenship, because he's got other issues. I mean, that's the whole thing on him, and
that's
pretty obvious.
That's exactly what happened. He helped them. It's clear. There was several high-level terror targets like his friend who were tracked and killed. When he got back Duko Umarov, who was still alive at the time, he finally got taken out in a drone strike, but they call him like the Osama bin Laden of Russia. So this guy had like a Drudge Report for terrorists, like it was called Cavcats, and it was literally like an online, like, celebration of terrorist attacks. Duko Umarov, when those guys were killed in Udmurtia, in Dagestan, because of, many people believe, I'm one of them, Tamerlan's help, he put on his website that there was an American who was the rat. And that attack happened that took out the terrorists, including Tamerlan's friend. He was on a flight the next day. If you're in a drug house, Mike, and you get raided, and your buddy is back on a plane to wherever he came from the very next day, you're going to think that your buddy is the rat.
Totally. I mean, that's what happens, and that's why people get whacked, in drug gangs, because sometimes they're not even the rat, but just the suspicion of it, and that's totally how it works. Yeah, absolutely.
And then when he got back, he was on the fast track for citizenship, which he was entirely not eligible for, because he had slapped that girlfriend around, his ex-girlfriend, before he got married to Catherine Russell. He was dating some girl, and the girl dressed too provocatively in his mind, so he slapped her. She called the cops. That's a DV on his record, which anybody who has any experience with immigration knows. That is a violation of the moral turpitude clause, which immediately renders you ineligible to apply for citizenship for 5 years. But immediately upon Tamerlan Tsarnaev's return from Russia, he's on the fast track to citizenship that he wasn't eligible for. And that's where things went wrong. And that's why we got bombed, I believe. There was an FBI agent who was assigned to handle him. The only guy who did get a citation for bravery after this whole thing went down. He instead got kicked up to Buffalo, New York, like the hell of the FBI field stations. That guy was supposed to hold Tamerlan's hand and make sure he got his citizenship. But he was like, the agency isn't allowed to work on American soil. The FBI can't work overseas. There's also often tensions. And this agent didn't want to have to babysit this guy. Right now, let's start with that for a second, Mike, because I know we're running out of time. But just the idea that the FBI had an open investigation into Tamerlan Tsarnaev at the time of the bombings. They had interviewed him several times. Are we really expected to believe that the agent who went to Tamerlan Tsarnaev's house multiple times, talked to him, talked to his family, didn't look at the photo and go, "Holy shit, isn't that guy from Cambridge I just interviewed?" I know if I interviewed Tamerlan Tsarnaev within that time frame, I would recognize, oh, that's that dude from Cambridge that goes to that wild mosque. I would recognize him.
Yeah. He's got a distinctive look too, as like a tall boxer.
I mean,
like
he's a Golden Glove champ 2 times, and that gave him the motive. That's why he wanted to be a citizen so badly, because he wanted to box for the U.S. in the Olympics.
Yeah,
and they screwed him, and he screwed us back by detonating those bombs.
It's wild that they don't think that they radicalized him too, because you put him around the radical people and then it doesn't turn out good. He might have had feelings for some of them, and next thing you know, they're screwing him over. He's not getting his citizenship, and that's the whole recipe for disaster. It's just wild. And you look at this whole ring that they let him get away with it. The most disappointing thing for me is, and this is what we've been covering, a lot of scandals from this same office, even when someone else is in charge. Essex County DA. They were the ones that were most negligent, in my view.
Yeah, they crossed the Daniel Moeller case. And then if you look, it wasn't Essex, it was Middlesex County DA that didn't handle the Waltham triple murder case appropriately. That was when Jerry Leone, who was a very well-respected guy, I really thought he was going to run for governor, but Jerry Leone quit his job, which is unheard of. Nobody quits the DA's office. We know that from Norfolk County, right? No one just quits. So their job as the district attorney. So Jerry had quit in the middle of the Marathon bombing case, but it turns out that, that he had some links to the Golden Gloves as a referee, and it raised some really, I'll never forget, a source called me and said, "McPhee, you remember that? So remember that story about the Waltham triple murder, which I had covered as an on-air reporter for Channel 5 for the ABC, for WCVB at the time. I met Tamerlan Tsarnaev with Brendan Mess, one of the 3 dead kids from Waltham. The family told the cops, look at Tamerlan Tsarnaev. Tamerlan had introduced Brenda Mess to his girlfriend, the woman from the Sudan who found the bodies and then took off and went back to the Sudan. So there was a lot of things that pointed to Tamerlan's eye, but he got a completely free pass. They did put him on 2 terror watch lists, but somehow, even while on 2 terror watch lists, he was able to leave the country, but and go back to the country that he had gotten asylum from. If I ever go back to Russia, I'll be killed. I must get asylum. Then he goes back to Russia, and he overstays the amount of time he's allowed to with a green card, and comes back on 2 terror watch lists and slides right in. This story stinks to high heaven, and no one's really asking any, significant questions of the FBI. So while you're marching in the streets for police accountability, I really want to say we should be marching in the streets for federal accountability. And there's plenty of good FBI.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and DAs. Because I'd say the local police, at least the Topsfield police, they did the right thing. They spoke up about it. They made a report. So
the
like
Mass State Police Bomb Squad, the Boston Police. There were so many great law enforcement agencies, including Somerville Police. Because if you remember, Sean Collier was supposed to start his new job as a rookie cop at Somerville, which is his lifelong dream. Instead, he was shot dead. People in Somerville were pissed off. The brothers went to go celebrate the bombing in Somerville at some kebab place. And then you start looking at all the other, Ibrahim Todashev, who was shot dead by a Boston FBI agent in Orlando, remember, in May of 2013, shortly after the marathon bombings. He was suspected of he was writing out a confession. Me and Tamerlan killed those 3 dudes in Waltham. Then he gets shot dead. The confession is blood splattered. Like, there's pictures of it with blood all over it. And there's no real accountability for that. Like, wait a minute, dead man tell no tales. The one guy who knew what happened in Waltham is suddenly like shot in the back 10 times. It's not 10 times.
Seemed fishy. That seemed very fishy. It almost seemed like, it's funny because way back I interviewed his aunt, Todashev's aunt. And she thinks the FBI, yeah. And she's like disappeared since then. But yeah. And she thinks that they, killed him on purpose. Like, that's what the whole theory was.
Well, it is bizarre to go interview a murder suspect in his bedroom. Come on, you picked that kid up. He was very dangerous. We know that.
They had watched him get in fights like the week before. He had just gotten into like fights on the street with people. Like that's
he almost killed a guy in the street while the FBI surveillance team was sitting on him. Not only that, he had gotten into some sort of road rage thing in Boston down near Filene's basement, which the former Filene's basement. And the cop showed up, and one of the cops who responded told me, Michelle, it was like fighting a refrigerator with this guy. He was a maniac. There's no way you're going to do a homicide interrogation in the guy's house. Why were they in his house? Why didn't they bring him to the closest police station or someplace secure? There's swords hanging on the wall. We're expected to believe that this was a legitimate interrogation.
And they knew. I mean, this guy had gotten issues in his own gym. Wild. There's so much we could be more talking about this book. I love it. I hope people are checking it out. There's also a podcast. I would love to talk more with you too about some of the other things you're covering, because Sandra Birchmore is another big thing that you've been covering too, right? You have a book.
I think I am going to start a book on Sandra Birchmore. That story, personally, I think it rips out anybody who looks at this poor girl and what she was put through. It's gut-wrenching. That's when the word gut-wrenching means something, because it literally makes you sick to your stomach. It twists your guts, what happened to that poor kid. And look, I really hope that the feds have something big coming, because when you read those reports about the investigation into her death, it really raises a lot of unanswered questions. I mean, most critically, I think, is the way Lieutenant John Fanning referred to Matthew Farwell repeatedly in his reports as Matt. Matt's a good guy. Matt's a great guy. Matt says they got in a fight. Matt says, Matt. And you're like, what the? I've never read reports like that ever, where they're referring to somebody who has been named by her family, by others, by strangers, as the likely father of the unborn child, which we now know is not true. But at the time, she believed it, he believed it, everyone around her believed it. Matthew Farwell was the father of this kid. And this guy should have been an obvious suspect. And instead, all the reports are written about, like, you know, as if it was a wild inconvenience that Matthew Farwell was even being questioned by the state police. In fact, he had met up with a buddy and even complained about it. Like, how dare they? And now we see him sitting in a jail cell. I really hope that there's accountability that comes out of the Sandra Birchmore case. But to me, what's really shocking, and I cannot think, and maybe there are cases, I cannot think of another case I have covered, at least, that the perp's defense is, well, the state says I'm innocent. The Norfolk DA says she committed suicide. The ME says, I mean, that's wild. I've never seen a case like this.
Because we have Juna Perkins on the show a couple times, and she is running for DA against Michael Morrissey, and she said she was at a Quincy Dems event where Michael Morrissey got up and basically said that he felt like someone asked a question, and he said that Sandra Birchmore, he's still stuck with what the ME. He still felt like it was suicide, and this was just like 6 months ago.
When there's zero evidence that this girl is suicidal, if I'm gonna off myself, I'm not putting in a load of laundry. I'm not gonna call and make advanced plans to have my cats cared for when I give birth. She was on email with a photographer saying, hey, when I give birth, I want to set up this photo. She was, Facebook messengering with her cousin, then suddenly drops off. This guy shows up, her phone stops moving. He had been there 2 days before, checking out her closet to see whether something was sturdy, pulling on things. Give me a break. Give me a break. This was not a suicidal woman. And then you look at the motive. He left. This is indisputable due to the evidence that we have seen with the video. He left her house and drove to the hospital where his wife was giving birth to the couple's third child. He had motive, he had means, and he had opportunity. He at least should have been considered a suspect. And I have never also considered, look, whenever in my very long career as a crime reporter, when you find an unattended death, that's exactly what it is. You don't say it's a suicide or a homicide. You say it's an unattended death. You don't know. You're a cop. You don't make that kind of a determination until an ME steps in. And that ME didn't step in with the suicide determination until months later. And who knows what the relationships were between the cops and the ME's office, especially, look, Wedge's book is called Copland, right? Like there is something to be said about everybody down there knows each other. We're Boston. When people say it to me, like, how could people keep a secret? I go, you don't know Boston. We are the most fiercely loyal humans on the planet. We're talking about a group of people who grew up together, who went to the police academy together, who hang out together, who married each other's sisters. Like, give me a break. This is a very close-knit circle. And if we were part of it, we might be in a, shut our mouths, because that's just how Bostonians are. We're not going to talk out of school about each other. And certainly this seemed to be the case with the Sandra Birchmore incident. Matthew Farwell should have been taken seriously, especially when there was the things he was writing to her was so alarmingly toxic and inhumane that anyone who took one look at, let me put it this way, a real detective, a retired investigator, who I'm not going to name, obviously, when he looked at it, he told me he had to go wash his eyes out with holy water at church. So anyone assigned to that case who looked at what he was doing, the videos that they were making her send to all these cops, they were passing around, anyone should have wanted to wash their eyes out with holy water and make sure that this guy does. I mean, I'm sad to look, I have no opinion on the death penalty, but the very worst thing in the world I'm going to stop right there because I'm going to get into editorializing. But what I reported is upsetting enough that I tend to think that this girl, there's no evidence that she committed suicide, and there is a lot of evidence of quite the opposite.
Just shocking that he's still saying that stuff. And the thing about, I think people on the outside don't realize about Boston is like, it's like unspoken too. Like I'm Irish Catholic, and like in my family, you don't touch, you don't ask you talk about sports, talk about family. You don't ask those questions. It's kind of just like, that's the way that the whole thing works too. It's the same thing. It's just like you just don't ask those. You don't go there. You just don't go there.
Right. It's fascinating. I am so on deadline for this Rob Reiner story, which is horrible, right? Like, imagine this kid who had everything, allegedly stabbing his parents to death multiple times.
Unfortunately, this is something that happens a lot with, parents and
Yeah.
grown kids that have issues. It's like, what do you do? What do you do? Do you let
They did
them
it
go on the street and die, or do you let them live with you and who knows what could happen to you because of that? It's a tough situation. I really feel
it's
awful.
terrible. There was, this same week there was a Grammy-winning artist. Oh God, his name went out of my head. Julian. But he, also was killed by his mentally ill child. So you're right, Mike. It's like a conundrum. What do? You don't want to leave your drug-addled, mentally ill kid on the streets. That's why they had to bring him to the Conan O'Brien party, because they couldn't leave him at home. He was unraveling. And that's where I think it just, according to prosecutors, that's where it all jumped off.
We looking for that story. Is that going to come out maybe tomorrow, you think? Or
No, it'll be
tonight?
the cover story for the January issue
LA
of LA Magazine.
Oh, you're print. You're still doing print. That's awesome. LA Mag,
I love writing
Glossy
print.
Magazine.
I
Yeah.
had a fun story in Boston Magazine last month about that houseboat murder in Charlestown. People should check out.
I love print too. That's, it's funny because that's how I started. I was at Bridgewater State Comment, the local Bridgewater State newspaper. I was a
We
sports
need to keep
editor.
those papers alive.
I
That's
love,
the lifeblood of journalism right
yeah.
there.
I also used to write for Dig Boston. That was another one. But I've been in a lot. I've been in Boston Magazine. They wrote a little piece on me actually one time. So I love print. Print is so special
Print
when you
is where
get it.
it's at. It really
Yeah,
is.
that's why I love books too. Like, and not the Kindle. I'm like Gen X. I still do the real book.
Me
I'll
too.
do a
I'm like a
hardcover, but paper.
scribbler. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm
So I
so
want to
happy
thank
to
you.
be on, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So just shout out where people can follow you because you're on Twitter. It's michelemcphee.com is your website. You're at lamag.com. Tell people where they can follow you and subscribe and all that.
Thank you. I wish I could get my act together and do what you're doing and, and like have a YouTube channel and talk about all these great, fascinating crime stories, but it's more fun talking to you and having you ask the questions. But you can find me on Twitter, Michele McPhee, Michelle 1L. Like my mother always said, no hell in this, Michelle. But I think others would disagree. And, you can find, I think, the Boston Magazine story about the murder of Joe Donahue by the crypto con woman, the talented Miss Nelson, which was a fun read. That was in the December issue of Boston. No, December. The December issue of Boston Magazine. And I'm at lamag.com. I love Los Angeles Magazine. It has a private owner. He's an interesting guy, Mark Aragos. And it's a small staff, but we're keeping it alive and, rocking and rolling and running roughshod over the LA Times, which is like the Boston Globe of LA. So it's been fun to, go head to head.
I'm glad to see you doing well in LA. And hopefully we see you back in Boston as well. But thank you so much for being here tonight. And we'll talk
I'll buy
real
you a
soon.
coffee when I'm back for Christmas.
I can't wait. Looking forward to it. Michele McPhee, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thanks, Mike. It's so good to see everybody. It's nice to be back in Boston.
I know. That was awesome. I kept her a little longer. I hope it was okay because she is under deadline. She's phenomenal. That was so good. Hopefully she comes back on the show. I'd like to have her like every month. Like she's just, if we can, if we both can afford it, if I could, because I would even like throw money down for that. That's just like, she's amazing. She is just, holy shit. That was great. Get the friggin' book, people. Get this book. Get it. It's really good. And there's a podcast too. I'll throw the podcast link in. I'm going to throw all her links. Michelle, actually, which one is this? This is her website. I think it's already pinned in the chat, but if it's not, I'm just going to post it again. Just go check her out, please. Make sure you subscribe to her. She's on Twitter. That's her website that I'm posting. And this is her podcast. I would check. She hasn't done an episode in a couple of years on this, but this is really a great podcast about the Boston bombings and some of the other things we were talking about tonight. All right, tomorrow night, you know what's going down, hopefully. 7 p.m. This is going to be something special. Tomorrow night, it's a fundraiser for Karen Reed, and it's going to be some major special guests. I am not hosting it. I was actually asked to host it, but I said no because I felt like I was too controversial, considering all the stuff that's gone on. So we're having DJ from Calling All Beings host this, but it's going to be on a lot of different platforms. LTL Media will be broadcasting it. The Young Jerks will be broadcasting it here on this channel, as well as Calling All Beings, and I think James Jackson and JFK as well, and maybe some others. It's going to be everywhere. So look for it tomorrow night. I would love to if you watch it in my, in our, little link on YouTube here, because it's going to be a big show. There's going to be so many big guests on here and some surprises. So tomorrow night, 7 p.m., you better be here. And please, if you can consider donating even a small amount to the Karen Reed Civil Fund, that's what we're doing tomorrow night. We're going to support Karen Reed tomorrow night, 7 p.m. And I'm also expecting to do some shows next week with some other authors. Another author. Actually, both of these guys have been on the show in the past, but one not in a long time. And so I'm hoping to have some other guests next week as well, discussing some other local true crime stuff. Mass is Corrupts gifted 5 Young Jerks memberships. Thank you so much tonight for doing that. I want to thank everyone who's been in the chat, our mods. I want to thank Dennis Sweeney, boots on the ground. He gifted 5 Young Jerks memberships tonight. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for being here. I want to say Sherry, one of our mods, Sherry D, says multiple chatters, helicopters flying overhead, Brown shooting, stay safe. I've seen some reports right before I went online from our friend, Nerdy ESQ, Nerdy, Nerdy on that I was just on his show the other day. He had posted that they were looking for somebody with a license plate in New Hampshire, Salem, New Hampshire, I believe. Yeah, this is definitely popping off. There's a lot of weird stuff happening around this Brown MIT shootings. We'll see what happens on that. I'm going to check it out when I get off the air, maybe. Or maybe we'll take a look now. But yeah, anytime I have helicopters overhead, it always goes back to what we talked about tonight. It was this Boston bombing marathon. Because I was living right there in Cambridge at the time, right where the shooting of Collier happened, 2 blocks away. On the other side of me is where the 2 brothers lived, so I was in between the area there, and it was wild. It was a wild friggin' time because the helicopters were over a house. They were just 5 days of it, it was just, and the cops with the machine guns and nothing I've ever experienced before like that. How on edge we were. So hopefully it's not like that tonight. Maybe they caught him. You tell me in the chat. Did they catch him yet? Whoever it is. And I've got some people in the chat. Actually, one person who's been sending me some info on who they actually think did it, and it could be one of these groups. Could be one of these groups. It could be one of the groups that the FBI recently infiltrated and busted. Actually. We'll see. There's a lot of speculation, but it seems like they're on the right track finally. It seems like they actually know who they're looking for. We shall see. Yeah, I mean, we have choppers fly over all the time too, but usually they're going somewhere or they're news copters. When that was going down in Cambridge, and I'd say the Boston area for the Boston Marathon bombing, you just have these helicopters pretty low, and they'd just be doing the circle, doing this tight circle. And so they would never leave. They were there every moment of every day for like 5 days. And everywhere you looked, so there'd be one like right over you, and then you look over here and there'd be another one, and then over there there'd be another one. So you'd like everywhere you look, there'd be 3 to 5 of them, and they'd just be going around in circles. And it was just wild to have that kind of like, you felt it. And when you went outside, there was nobody outside except maybe me walking my dog real quick and running back in the house, because there were literally cops with machine guns. And I remember the first time I went to the pizza place and it was all cops. They were like, "Where do we eat?" Like because they saw me walking down the street with the pizza, and I'm telling them where to go. Like this is the good place. Like it was just me and cops everywhere. There was like nobody on the streets except cops and machine guns, and we were just all hunkered down. It's like shelter in place. Even yeah, she was an amazing guest tonight. Really, really happy to have her on tonight. That was great. I hope she enjoyed it. And again, I recommend getting this book and having a read. You can see how corruption really works, how they really do cover up shit. You want to know who the special Natalie Diana 67 says, I hope tomorrow is a great turnout. Curious who are the special guests. I'm really excited. I think it's going to turn out good because I've already heard some people sending me messages today pledging to donate when the show's live tomorrow night. So that's the big thing. We want to raise money and we want to raise the numbers, obviously. So if you can watch it like, if you have a tablet and a phone, a computer, watch it on all of them and watch all the different feeds because we want to boost the numbers, get as many people watching that thing tomorrow night and throwing down money. And that's the big thing. But yeah, there's going to be some special guests. That's all I can say. I can't say. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We don't even know. Like the people who are going to be on the show that have been organizing this, we don't even really know. That's the thing. So that's a beautiful thing about something like this. It's a live show. You never know what's going to happen. You never know. You never know. The only thing I know is you better be there at 7 p.m. because that's the key. You don't want to miss it live. That's if you show up at 8:30, show up at 7. That's the only thing I'll give you a hint on. You don't want to be late. Don't be friggin' late. Be there. I'm expecting fireworks tomorrow. Yeah, quit. I'm gonna quit while I'm ahead. Exactly. I didn't say anything. I just said be there at 7 p.m., right? I'm gonna be there at 7 p.m. I guarantee you. I will be on that camera at 7. I'll be there. I'll be there early tomorrow. Oh, tomorrow there's also Kelsey Fitzsimmons is in court. I heard it's by Zoom. I don't know if that means her legal team won't be there. I need to find out whether I should even show up tomorrow. But that's supposed to be at 2 p.m. No, that's supposed to be at noon. And 2 p.m. is supposed to be Karen Reed, but I heard that got delayed. They're moving that to another date, but I'm not sure. Maybe there is something going on tomorrow. We'll find out. But the big thing is 7 p.m. That is the big thing tomorrow night. Karen Reed fundraiser. Do not miss that tomorrow night. And there's also all kinds of other kind of drama going on that people have noted. I didn't want to mention it too much tonight, but it's on X. I think people see what's going on. There's a lot of splitting. There's a lot of maybe kind of truth starting to come out. A little bit of accountability among some people. I'm not sure, but there's also I think just shitty shit. It's gonna go down. Unfortunately, I'm not like happy about it, but I will say like they should have listened to me. They should have listened to what I was saying because what I said was real and it was factual and it was trying to fucking calm shit down, honestly. And people, like I said, were dick riding too hard, and they're burning their own house down. And you could try to blame it on all these other people, but not my house burning down. If you know what I'm saying. And when you think about burning house down, it's not about the number of subs or the number of views. That's not. It's about some real shit. Some real shit. Not shit online. The real shit. And it sucks. And unfortunately, I would say, yeah, integrity does matter. That's a big part of this. Some people don't have integrity, unfortunately, and they can't be real or honest or even accept the truth, reality. I'm reality based. That's it. And my reality that I spoke 2 months ago, there you go. Yeah, and that's all we're gonna do. We're gonna just rise above. We're just gonna keep rising. I have a lot of stuff planned upcoming. Speaking of which, I got to get off the show because I got to get back to following up on one of those opportunities that's coming my way. I got to respond. I got to read and respond to an email that I got about something else. That's great. It's going to be great. So we have a lot of good stuff coming up. Like I said, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. You better be here. You gotta be here, 7 p.m. tomorrow night. I want to thank everyone who's still watching, who's been here tonight. Did I miss anyone? Let me make sure. I got Mass is Corrupt, Natalie, Diana. I got them all, I think. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything else. I feel like I'm missing something that I'm supposed to talk about tonight. But yeah, check in tomorrow because I will try to cover. We're going to try to stream, definitely, any of those hearings that we can tomorrow. Just checking one more thing before I leave. I think I'm good. Yeah. We got good. We got everything in. Any other questions or comments before I go from you? Oh, still, it's not judo or karate. I wish it was actually. I actually do want to do a little judo or maybe some mixed martial arts type stuff again. I might if I have, time or energy. I just don't want to get hurt. That's the big thing. I pick up injuries when I do that stuff, unfortunately. But that's why I like Tai Chi. Tai Chi is different. Tai Chi isn't actually karate or judo. It's basically just doing movements. It's just basically doing movements with your body, and it's builds strength. It builds breathing, and it also builds spirit. It's like really good for your body, mind, and soul. And it's without injuries, and you just kind of do what you can. And I am doing it. Yeah, I'm doing Tai Chi. I love it. It's kind of like it's a martial art, I guess, but it's not like a fighting martial art. But I guess you could kind of use it. It's almost like remember wax on, wax off. He wasn't really fighting anyone, but they were just kind of like movements, right? It's almost like karate. It's almost like, but it's not really. Just something you do by yourself. Breathing in and out. I love it. I've been doing it a lot actually. Yeah. There's all different styles too. I'm slimming down. I'm actually I think I'm starting to bulk up actually a little bit. You know? When I left my muscles start getting bigger, but or do even Tai Chi and shit, so it's funny, I have gotten skinny over my years here. I used to be bulkier, but I feel like I'm starting to I'm trying to get a little more. I gotta build the muscle up again a little more. I haven't worked out enough like I used to. I walk a lot of dogs. That's one of the reasons. When you walk a lot, it all comes off you. All those calories. Yeah, and we lose it when we get older too, right? That's why I'm trying to bulk up more again. All right. I think I'm good. I think we're good. You don't have any more questions? You're asking me about Tai Chi. Yeah, form is key in everything you do. I get the cardio, walking at least. I want to do more muscle building again. I feel like Tai Chi is like the best because it you're not going to get injured. That's the one thing you always have to worry about with lifting. So you can even get injured lifting weights, especially as you get older, which I am getting older. Yeah, protein. Oh, you want me to open the phones? I'll do it quickly. If anyone wants to call in, we'll do that. Well, I'll take a call. Why not? I'll take if any. I mean, it's gonna. That's the problem is you guys don't get this until later because a lot of people are behind a lot of times watching. But if anyone wants to call in, I just threw the StreamYard link in. You can give a shout out. It's a good opportunity to call in right now. Most people have already logged off. You were teasing. I thought you wanted to come up and say hi, Sarah. I like what Sarah calls. Do it, Sarah. Now the mods are gonna push you. They're gonna peer pressure you. Oh, look who's here. Sarah is here. Hey, Sarah, how you doing tonight?
Hey, good. Do I have an echo?
No, you sound good.
Okay, perfect. I have you literally, I'm talking to you on my phone. I have you on my laptop and I have you on my TV. So you're welcome.
Oh, I love it. Do that tomorrow night too.
I'm going to. No, I figured I would quickly call in since I was teasing you about opening the phone lines. Michelle was awesome. I hope that you have her back because even just hearing her talk about Sandra Birchmore could be like a 2-hour long show.
She's phenomenal. And she can do
Yeah.
breaking news. She's covering news all the time. It's just how busy she is, Like, I don't want to. That's the problem with a lot of the best guests. It's like people are like, why don't you have them back on next week? It's like they
It
have
doesn't work that
lives.
way. Well,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
this time of year is really tough too. You
Oh,
know what I
wicked.
mean? With the holidays next week. And then
True.
basically now through the end of the new year, you're lucky if you can get anybody. So
Totally.
yeah, but definitely looking forward to tomorrow night. I put it in the chat, but I also just want to say, if you'll indulge me for one more minute, that if folks have the opportunity and don't mind, just share the love tomorrow with giving all the creators a thumbs up on their streams, and maybe just saying a quick hi in their chats if you can. I mean, certainly come watch with us. But I think there's like, I don't know, Mike, what, maybe 6 creators streaming or 7. So if folks don't
Yeah.
mind, I think that would be nice.
Do you know who the other ones are? Because I haven't confirmed them all. I know Calling on Beings definitely is.
Yeah,
Calling
Calling
on
on-
Beings.
LTL,
Young Jerks. LTL.
young jerks. I'm assuming James and JFK would. I think they have before.
I think so.
And I know I'm missing people, but
We'll
yeah,
find out tomorrow. We'll find out tomorrow.
exactly. But yeah, I mean, definitely come watch with the young jerks. I don't want Mike to take away my wrench, but
I'm not taking away your wrench.
I'm teasing.
Links I mean, that's the thing. Like likes everywhere. Hit them up. Hit all the different ones up and like them all. That's the key.
Exactly. And then I don't know if you saw, I put it in chat and then I can let you go because I know you're trying to probably eat dinner and stuff and go hang with your better half. But I asked if your little Charlie was going to be a special guest tomorrow because we love him.
Maybe I could probably arrange that. I could probably bribe him with some treats. Yeah, he could probably see him for a second.
For like 4 seconds because I know he probably won't want to be like up on your lap and stuff. But I know sometimes he chills with you, but I don't know if that's all the time or just when the girlfriend's gone. So
Oh, he does like to chill, but the problem is in the studio. He knows I have like tissues up here, so he knows there's little treats he can find. So there's all kinds of stuff. So
Yeah.
anytime he gets up my lap, he's like, "Oh, I'm getting on the table. I'm getting on the computer," and it's like, "Oh, he's gonna ruin everything." He's gonna
remember when
crash
he
my whole-
knocked your light over?
Yeah, like he's crazy. Like he just,
He's
yeah.
such
I
a
love
nut.
him, but he is nuts. He is nuts.
I'll
Good old
never
Charlie.
forget that. Like you're just talking, everything's fine. All of a sudden there's a crash and the light goes out and Mike's like, what the bleep just happened?
Golly.
So, oh my God.
He'll get into stuff. That's the thing. He's always, and then he's smart. Like I always call him Whitey Bulger. I said, you're my little Whitey Bulger. Because what he'll do is he'll get something he knows he's not supposed to grab, like paper, and then he'll come and show you it because he wants a treat. He wants to do a trade-off. He's like, I'll give up this piece of paper if you get me a treat.
He's smart.
He is. He's
He's
extortion.
smart.
He's extortion. Yeah. He knows how to get it. He knows how to get his treats.
He is a wise old man and he is adorable. So
He is. He is.
oh,
doing good.
okay. I think that's all I have though. Great show. Michelle was awesome. Hopefully after the holidays she can come back. And yeah, just looking forward to everybody's support. Keep in mind, guys, it's a tough time of year for everybody with the holidays. Support doesn't have to be financial. That's the goal, obviously, with a fundraiser. I don't want to take away from that. But if you can't give financially, there are other massive ways that you can help. Watch, spread the word. And that is just as important. So please don't feel like because you might not be able to donate financially, you're not helping. The views help, the word of mouth helps, the positivity helps. So that's my little TED talk on that for folks who are having tough financial times right now. I get it. But there's a lot of other ways that you can help. So looking forward to seeing everybody in the chat.
My God, this is wild. I'm just freaking out, Sarah. It's funny.
Why?
Um, Charles just said Brown University shooter's car found at Tuscan Village in Salem, New Hampshire.
Oh my God, what? Oh, I'm looking at chat now.
And
Oh my, hold
and
on.
the reason I'm freaking about that is because I recently hung out with some family members and they live up there and they had mentioned meeting up that we should meet up at Tuscan Village. I'm like, holy shit, you know, it's
Oh
like
my God.
I hope my fam's all right. I gotta check in with some
Yeah,
family
no,
members and shit.
I'll let you go so that you can check on that. That is insane. That's very scary.
A
Yeah,
lot
I
of my
will.
family lives up in that area now. It's a lot of them have moved to New Hampshire. It's wild. All right. I
Yeah,
just
I'll let you
hopefully
go.
everyone's all right. I really appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, I'll
Um,
talk to you.
and everything you're doing too. I want to thank my mods. I want to thank you, Sarah. I know it's been a tough time, and I just want to thank you so much for being a friend of mine.
Oh, thank you, Mike. You know how I feel about you. You're my adopted brother, whether you like it or not. And
I do like
someday,
it.
someday I will hopefully get to meet the girlfriend. And yeah, no, I appreciate you and support you always. And your friendship means the world to me. You know that. And we're gonna have an awesome 2026, and that's all I care about.
We sure are. It's amazing things are happening over here at the Young Jerks. I want to thank you so much, Sarah, for being here.
Yep.
And we'll talk soon.
Okay. Bye, guys. Talk to
Bye
you.
now. Oh, that was a good call. I want to thank Sarah for calling in, but Jesus Christ, this shit is like, oh, it's like hitting close to home, you know, like weird stuff happening. All right, I'm gonna get out of here. I will see you tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Maybe during the day for the Kelsey Fitzsimmons, if we could stream that, or the Karen Reed. If there's any streams, we'll try to get it up. We'll see what happens on that tomorrow. And I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night, everyone. Stay safe.